Welcome to the Infidel, podcast of the damned, the weekly companion show of the Infidel News. Join us as we discuss this week's religious accounts from an atheist perspective. From Timbuktu to Toledo, from Kathmandu to Canada, from Bangalore to Bangladesh. We deplore, you deride. And here are your hosts, Dave and Nicole.
Hello, and welcome to show number 3 of the Infidel, podcast of the damned. I'm your host, J. David Core, atheist, author, and alligator advocate. And with me is my co-host, Nicole Simard. Hello,
hey.
Nicole.
Hi, how are you? And here I am, not doing any product placement.
Well, I can't tell what that is anyway, so that's good.
Exactly.
Also joining us today is one of our anchors, Jenny McDermott. Hello, Jenny.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome to the show. Today is Friday, September 26, 2014, so we're a little bit late doing the show. What we'll be doing is discussing the upcoming episodes of the Infidel News, which will begin running on Monday, September 29th, 2014. So, Nicole, I had a couple of little things that I wanted to catch up on that we had discussed before. In the first show, we had talked about the Catholic Church and Archbishop Wojciech or something like that, who was in the Vatican stripped of his diplomatic immunity. And
actually, before you go any further, there is news, and it will be on in a couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So there has been an update on that, so people need to be watching for that. But we had been speculating that the church wasn't going to do anything, and so we may or may not have a mea culpa coming. And the other thing that I wanted to mention real quick before we begin is, not that we haven't begun, but before we get into the news, is last week I had mentioned that we have something in the United States called Banned Book Week. Turns out this is Banned Book Week. I didn't know it at the time, but we're actually in the middle of Banned Book Week right now. So I'm going to in the show notes in the on the blog, which is infidelpodcast.blogspot.com. So in the show notes for the show, I'll be putting a link to the information for Banned Book Week.
Is your book one of the banned books?
Not yet. I'm sure
all the good ones are banned.
All the good ones all the best books are banned. So that's how you know you've made it. when you've been banned. Yeah. On my personal blog, I posted my top 10 list of banned books of all time. Number 1 on my list, Alice in Wonderland. Why that book would be banned, I don't know, but that's my number 1 book of all time for banned books. Okay. So anyway, what we'll do now is we'll show a clip from the Infidel News, one of the stories that's coming up, and then after that we'll go ahead and chat about it.
Okay, here we go.
Israeli authorities have arrested 6 people from a Messianic Jewish sect on charges of corruption and prostitution stemming from a 4-month-long investigation after police received complaints that the cult was taking advantage of their younger female members. Attorneys for David Devash and Gad Zarad, the 2 senior male members of the group, had filed an insanity plea on behalf of the 2 men. Devash's lawyer stated that his clients are adults with alternative lifestyles, perhaps indigestible to the conservative guys in the police, but they didn't perpetrate all the serious offenses that the police are trying to pin on them. Police say the persons they have taken into custody use drugs and brainwashing techniques to convince the young women in their sect to have sex with non-Jews, including Palestinians and foreign workers, as it was the only way to, quote, save the Jewish people and bring about redemption. Police maintain that the men receive financial compensation from these men in exchange for the women's time and favors. However, the sect's leadership denies the charge.
Okay, so that was an interesting story. It's a religious sect within Judaism. The story didn't give the name of the sect. I kept looking, trying to find the name of them, because all these sects, there's a T in there. they all generally have their own unique names, But I couldn't find what this sect was called.
That's what I was interested in too, because Messianic Judaism is just a combination of Christianity and Judaism, right? So I was are they calling that a cult? Or what are they saying is specifically a cult? Well, I mean, now I know with the the sexing and such. But
yeah, well, it would have been a cult anyway, because it was anytime that they have it's a messianic cult, because the one guy was the head of the cult, and he was like he was pretty much basically, I don't know if he actually claimed to be a messiah, but anytime there's one person that takes a leadership role and everybody follows him, like David Koresh, that's a messianic cult, and that's why it was called a messianic cult, and that's why I was interested in finding out what the name of that cult was, because I was wondering if there was anything in the news about it prior to this, and them trying. I was going to look it up, but I couldn't find anything about them except for until this. So, but the whole thing, it seems like it might be trumped up, because it's all based on accusations from one former cult member, one woman who left the cult and is claiming these things. The police say that they did a investigation that was several months long, but as far as what the news articles, from what I've heard, what I saw from the police themselves, and from what I saw from the lawyers for the cult, they're all saying that it's all based on one woman's word.
Well, they had actually, because the wife of David Devash, who is David the Best, is the name he goes by, I guess. I think I read it on Haaretz. I think it's called Haaretz, or else it was Jerusalem Online or something. I'd read it, but she had said that it was all like a consensual group sex that they were all taking part in,
right,
or something. Right. So I mean, they're still. I guess they pled insanity, and they sent them off to be diagnosed if they are in fact insane. But right. I mean, I don't know anything further.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. The wife said it was consensual. The men say it was consensual. None of the young girls that were involved in the thing at the time have, to my knowledge, come forward and said, no, we were coerced. It's all one woman that says it was coerced. If it was consensual, that's why I'm saying it seems like it might be a little trumped up. It's hard to say for right now, but I mean, it's screwed up no matter what. If it was consensual, it's still screwed up. But if it's consensual, it's consensual.
This Gad Zarad character, they're claiming he was responsible for bringing drugs in and getting these women hooked on drugs and alcohol, or
That kind of reminds me of a video I saw today. It's a couple, a Christian couple who are into swinging, and they've decided that they're going to use swinging as their way of passing their message of God and His love, etc. And they're trying to convert people who they swing with. So one of the first things they do when they chat with another couple is to talk about God.
Well, I know every time I have sex, I say talk about God in one way or another.
I do too. I can't help it. I feel you're an atheist. Stop it.
But yeah, that's a common using sex to proselytize is that's as old as paganism. That's really, I mean, that's if you've ever seen the end of Da Vinci Code, that's what that's all about. That's what the whole cult was all about. Have you ever seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what that's all about. That's a cult, and basically the same kind of thing. The rich people were trying to have babies so that they could keep their cult alive.
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to weren't they trying to sort of like intermix their religion with other religions or something? They were having Jewish women have sex with like Palestinians or something. Were they trying to have children out of that? Was that
yeah. Well, in Judaism, Judaism is only inherited through the mother. So if you're a Jewish man and you have relations with what's it, shiksa? The offspring are not considered Jewish. So, but unless the woman converts, but if a Jewish mother has children, the children are automatically considered Jewish. That's the only way it can be passed on is from mother to child in Jewish tradition. which I don't know really the reasoning behind that, but that's always been their belief. So that's why they were doing it that way. They were having the men come in and from outside, that they believed that was what was going to keep Israel alive, because in Israel, it's all Jewish people marrying Jewish people, and they were like, thinking, the only way to keep which, is generally true. That is actually generally true about anything. Is that if you once you inbreed too many times, you're weakening the strain. So they actually have a scientific basis to their thinking there. So.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're doing it the proper way. I think, as far as I'm concerned, with saying that it's going to be passed on through from mother to children,
Right.
instead of father to children, because the only person, as they say, who knows for sure who the father is the mother.
That's true. That's true.
In any relationship, the only person who knows for sure is the mom.
Well,
sometimes she knows.
Yeah, and nowadays there you can do a spit test and find out. So it's not so much true anymore. But yeah, traditionally that's true.
Yep.
Okay, want to move into the second story?
Second story. Here we go.
In Toronto, Canada, decided to create the university's very own Club Satan. He and his friends stood on campus advertising the Legion of Academic Satanists to crowds of interested students. "We grabbed some cardboard out of the garbage and just wrote a sign," Schweitzer said, adding that they managed to collect 50 to 60 signatures in 1 hour. With a list of signatures and student emails, Schweitzer hopes to get his application to the Ryerson Students' Union soon in order to make the club official. However, not everyone was so enthused about the idea of a Club Satan on the campus. First-year student Saida Zahra said Ryerson should place restrictions on new clubs that might antagonize students. A lot of people would be offended by this club, adding that she wouldn't mind its existence as long as it's not out in the open. During the time Schweitzer and his friends were canvassing for members, Schweitzer said that a lot of people gave us a lot of shit. Lots of Christians specifically got really mad. They'd swear, they'd kick our stuff. I don't know why, Schweitzer insists. It's not necessarily opposed to any theologies. It has more to do with Taoism than with Christianity, and any distaste arises from jumping to conclusions. Tahsin Jiwani, the Ismaili Muslim Students Association executive, said he doesn't mind the creation of the club. Mainly, he doesn't know what Satanism entails. But Schweitzer is quick to tell anyone that Club Satan isn't as extreme as it sounds. Satanism is more of like a provocative idea, he said. We're just trying to find people that have similar mindsets to hang out with.
Okay, that guy who said that people don't understand what Satanism is about is full of shit, because Satanists don't understand what Satanism is about. There's 3 or 4 different. There's LaVeyan Satanism. There's different kinds of Satanism, and what he said is it has more to do with Taoism than the biblical Satan. That may be true for him, but why not just be a Taoist? What's the point of even calling it Satanism? The LaVeyans consider Satan to be an archetype, but they also consider the archetype to be valid. And then there's other sects that just consider it to be what's the word, avatar that represents an ideology and isn't actually an entity. So it all depends on which Satanist you're talking to. And the other thing that cracked me up in that story was the woman who said, "I don't care if they're here as long as they keep to themselves."
Yeah.
And then after
That's
that,
like
the conspiracy folks are gonna say, "There's there's a hidden sect."
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. As long as they keep to themselves.
Because they have like these in Mexico, they found 2 dead bodies that were murdered in some satanic ritual type way. But then there's like the Lucian Greaves, who's like the spokesperson for like the American Satanic Temple. And he's like, no, this is just, we want the First Amendment behind us. So we're atheists that want to be recognized as a religion, where we're like, religion, no, like, don't recognize us as that. Please, we're not that. They're like, we are that. And guess what? If you put up statues in like a town area or something, we're going to put up a satanic statue and like we're going to do all the things that you're going to do. We're going to hand out coloring books and, whatever.
Yeah. Those are my favorite Satanists. Those those ones, because he doesn't really. I don't think they don't even have masses or anything like that. They don't have black masses or sabbats or any of that. They just do First Amendment stuff. They're basically a First Amendment proactive group. That's all. That's basically all that they do. So them I like. But the LaVeyans and the other Satanists, the ones who do like the ones who do things like animal sacrifice and stuff like that, are really just immature people trying to stir other people up. That's all that's about. So them I'm not too fond of. There was a group in what that story I sent you, Nicole, was that Oklahoma?
No, the story here, that's here in Toronto.
No, the one that I sent you.
Oh, I can't remember.
Somewhere here in the United States.
Don't ask me to remember anything.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you know? Okay, there was a black mass going to be held in the basement of a civic center, and 40. There's your cat. 40 Satanists showed up, or not 40. 40 people who claimed to be Satanists showed up, and they had a black mass in the basement of a civic center, and there was 3 times as many people outside protesting them as there were inside having the black mass.
That's funny.
And I think it was Oklahoma. I'll find the story and put it in the show notes.
Because Oklahoma and Florida are like the 2 major stories recently, I feel like, with Satanism. Like Florida was the coloring book. It was like the child satanic church coloring books. And then Oklahoma was where they put the 10 Commandments in like some town area. It was like a municipal building or something. And so they were going to put the satanic, because there's a difference. There's the Church of Satan, and then there's the Satanic Temple. So the Satanic Temple wanted to put a sculpture of Baphomet, which is like a man goat.
Man goat, yeah.
Yeah, with like little children at his feet. They had some artists, they commissioned some artists for the sculpture, and they'd raised all these funds to actually get it made, and they were going to put it there. But then, they're like, not in our town. This is Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So that's all I know about that.
Yeah, freedom of speech as long as it's our speech. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to find out, if they'll be able to put it in front of the, are they going to be able to put it in front of the courthouse?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that she's talking about in Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
Where the 10 Commandments were. Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, because in Florida they did the Festivus pole thing this last Christmas, and people were all up in arms over that. And then the atheists down there put a chair with a big pile of spaghetti on it. Yeah. And that was like the big thing, because they had the nativity scene, and they're like, well, you can do the nativity scene, so we can do this. So, I mean, hopefully they can. I mean, good for them. I'm thinking of becoming a card-carrying member of Satanists. Even though it still scares me, like the little dying Christian inside of me is still a little afraid of Satanism.
Well, there's no magic to it. It's not like Rosemary's Baby. You're not going to be conceiving Satan's offspring.
But like you say, some people take it past the theatrical, First Amendment rights level, and there's, the people who really do go out and kill goats and things like that, which I'm not okay with.
Right, but that's just disturbed people, and they're gonna be disturbed people no matter whether there's recognized religion or not. Whether Satanism is recognized or not, there's still going to be disturbed people. That's always going to be. But in my little community, we have a gazebo in the center of town, and every Christmas they put up a community Christmas tree, and then there's a light up night, and the Knights of Columbus put up a nativity scene in front of the Christmas tree, which is all perfectly legal under the Supreme Court decisions, because there's a secular and the non-secular mixed together, but they can't deny you anything. If they're going to allow one, they have to allow everything. So every year for about 3 years, I would go and put up something on the gazebo. Like the first year, I made a LED flying spaghetti monster, and I hung that up.
And then my gosh, get a picture of that. That's amazing.
The following year, I have a picture. I'll put it on the if I can find the image, I'll put it on the.
Well, you'll have to send it
well,
for me to me because then I can use it in one of our news shows.
Yeah. The second year, I put up a Festivus pole and a menorah. I got a little menorah, and I put a little menorah on a table next to the tree. So when they came for their light up night, my things were sitting right there. And they had to leave them; they couldn't take them down. And then the Festivus pole, all I did was I took a Christmas tree stand and I put an aluminum pole in it, and then I put a red and green ribbon and ran it all the way down the side of it. So it was really festive looking. And then the third year, I was going to put up a sandwich board that had Allahu Akbar in Arabic written on it, but I thought, nah, it's a little bit over the top, so I didn't do it.
So is it? Are you both in Canada?
No, I'm in Ohio.
And I'm in
okay.
Toronto.
Okay, so I was gonna say, is Canada? Wasn't there like a story recently about them becoming secular or trying to become secular, something
Canada?
like that?
Yeah. You know, the Quiet Revolution was several years ago, and
no, but there's also another story that's coming up where, actually, I can't remember.
It might have already happened.
Where they are trying, we read it. It's the association, the equivalent of the American Atheist Association. That's going to be.
I heard about.
Who's going to be represented at the Canadian Supreme Court.
Oh.
And so
do they have like 10 Commandments or things like that in Canada where you are?
No. There's no room for that. However, there are some cities where they start their city meeting with a prayer, and that's what they're trying to stop. Like for example, in the story, there's a city. It used to be called Chicoutimi. Now it's known as Saguenay. Officially, the name has changed, and the mayor there is extremely religious, and he wants every town meeting to start with the prayer. Mm-hmm. And in Quebec, they're fighting against that, and the Canadian Association is trying to get involved as well. So this is all a big case, and we'll have to follow what happens.
They don't even have official. There's no official separation of church and state anyway. So if they do that, I mean, all these decisions are based on just common law and the way society has been moving.
Yeah, there's no such thing as separation of church and state in Canada. However, and here's a bit of a history lesson. When this country was founded, there was the English institutions and the Catholic institutions. And the English institutions were all, Anglican, all Protestant. And so we had two school boards, one for the English and one for the French. That's how it started. And then all the immigrants started going to the English schools. And what did they do? They decided that, well, we've got people of every religion, so we're going to make it no religion. And it became the public schools. And so you had public schools and Catholic schools. Then you had the Irish immigrant who came to Canada, and they were Catholic. So we ended up with public schools, and then Catholic schools that are French and Catholic schools that are English. And now that everybody wants to have public schools that without religion, you have English public schools, you've got French public schools, you've got English Catholic schools, and French Catholic schools. So we've got, in Ontario, we've got 4 different types of school boards. In Quebec, they've got only 2 because they don't have any religious school boards anymore. So it's either English or French. But in Ontario, we've got 4 different types of school boards. All because of history.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the third story, or else we're going to be here all day.
The Nuns on the Bus first appeared on the political scene in 2012 when Sister Simone Campbell first led a group of sisters on a motor trip, mainly in the American Midwest. The focus of that campaign was income inequality in the working poor. Last summer, Campbell and the nuns went on the road again on behalf of immigration reform. For the third time, Campbell, who heads Network, a Catholic social justice lobby group, will be taking to the road for a month-long trip through 10 key U.S. Senate battleground states to campaign against the influence of outside money in politics. This issue has come to be identified with the wealthy industrialists Charles and David Koch, whose contributions to conservative political causes raise concerns about the role of dark money on elections. In a statement, Campbell said the tour isn't aimed at advocating legislative fixes, but will focus on voter registration drives and canvassing low-income neighborhoods to rally voters. We want to say the 100% are welcome to the table, but leave your money bags outside the door. However, Campbell was one of the American nuns singled out for criticism in 2012 by a Vatican investigation of the group representing most U.S. sisters, the Leadership Conference of Women's Religious. The Vatican said that the LCWR did not spend enough time defending church doctrine on abortion and sexual ethics, focusing too much on social justice issues. The Vatican's doctrinal chief recently renewed his blunt criticism, with some critics saying Pope Francis should revoke the LCWR's Catholic bona fides. Jeffrey Myris, founder of the Catholic Culture website, wrote that such a step was necessary because the spirituality of the LCWR is rooted in paganism, its cherished causes read like a secular wish list, and its whole attitude is profoundly anti-Catholic.
Okay, there you go. So the reason I thought
that story.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love the nuns on the bus.
So do I.
Yeah, the reason I picked this story to be one of the stories that we talked about today is because I love the nuns on the bus. The Christians are always saying that we pick on the Christians and that atheists are just anti-Christian. We're not anti-Christian. We're anti the way you guys do Christianity. It's the nuns on the bus are like what Christians should be. If every Christian was a nuns on the bus, I wouldn't have a problem with Christianity whatsoever. Those women are wonderful. The fact that the church is so misogynistically opposed to them is crazy. I mean, they're doing good works. They're helping the poor. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, except that they're not spreading the political message that the church wants them to spread. And it is a political message that the church is concerned about. It's not a religious message. It's a political one.
Right. The Kochs are Protestants, so they are, don't they, like, they fund the Tea Party, and they're in oil, so I mean...
Yeah, I don't know if Nicole's aware of this or if you've seen these commercials yet. I know Nicole's probably not aware because he's in Canada, but the Kochs have begun running commercials in the United States that are like those Honeywell commercials from the 70s where it's like, we are Coke and this is what we do. And then they show all the great things that they do because they're scared to death that they're going to start losing business the same way Chick-fil-A lost business, the same way Hobby Lobby lost business because of their political causes, because of their political involvement. They're so terrified of that. And there are actually 2 movies out right now. One's called Citizen Coke, and another one's called Exposing the Kochs, or Exposing the Koch brothers, or something like that. And they're grassroots movies that are being shown at Democratic headquarters, in libraries, in people's homes, and people have parties and get people to come watch these movies to find out what the Kochs are all about. And they're so scared that it's going to start interfering with their businesses that they're doing these mea culpa BP-like commercials that are like, no, we're Coke, we're great. You here's what we do for you. You know, it's incredible. But yeah, the nuns on the bus and the grass moveon.org and all these little grassroots movements have the Koch brothers scared shitless.
Well, what I love especially about those nuns is that it reminds me of the Catholicism I knew when I grew up. Because I grew up in Quebec where everybody's French, everybody's white, everybody's Catholic, etc., etc. It's worse than milk, than homo milk. You know, everybody's the same, or almost. And the thing is, though, I went to a private Catholic school, and the priests there were exactly like those nuns. I went through to 2 different schools, and they were all like that. Both places, all the priests were like that. They were devoted to helping people. They were devoted to social causes. When I was you've got the Society of Saint Vincent de Paul over in the U.S. and in Canada,
Yeah.
where and it's just a society where they sell clothes, for the disadvantaged folks. But in Quebec, we've got the Religious of Saint Vincent de Paul, and those are the equivalent of nuns, except that they're priests. And the thing is, what they do is they go and start social centers, sports centers in the poor neighborhoods, and so that the kids who are in a poor neighborhood have a place where they can go and play sports, and at the same time get support from the church. So those priests are involved and dedicated to helping people who need help, who need support. And those nuns, I find them refreshing, because when I came to Ontario, all of a sudden I got stuck with bishops who were complaining that some priests have a woman or a young girl helping him say the Mass. And I'm going like, this is backwards. This is this is such old history. And with those nuns, I'm back to the way it used to be when I was a young kid in Quebec. And those are the kind of religious people, like you said. If all religious people were like that, I'd have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, religion is known for being philanthropic. It's just that it is also, on the other side, such an industry. And a lot of what, in the U.S. we don't like is like the oil companies that are ruining this planet have like a lot of religious behind it, because, there's like climate change denial and things like that. So for me, it's like, stop fucking everything up. Like, stop like denying this is happening, So it's like no question that like Christians and other religions do good. They are very philanthropic, and they don't pay taxes, so they kind of have to be. But
Did you see? Do either of you subscribe to Jacqueline Glenn?
I do, yeah.
Did you see the video she did where she was taking money? She spent 2 days. She spent 2 days on a street corner. One day she held up a sign saying that they were Methodist and they were taking money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital or something, some children's hospital. I forget which one. And then the second day they held up the same sign, but it said they were atheists taking money for St. Jude's Hospital. And they got nothing but thank yous for the first day and nothing but scorn the second day. People were just so mean to them the second day. But the few atheists that came up to them gave them twice as much money as they raised the first day from all the happy Christians that were coming up to her and giving her money. She raised twice as, and that's only a 2-day experiment. It can't be called scientific by any stretch of the imagination, but it did make a very good point, which to me is I don't think that atheists are necessarily more or less generous than Christians. I think that when we see a cause, we rally behind it almost because it's not in spite of Christianity, but because it's finally our opportunity to do something as a community, which we haven't had prior to recently.
I mean, we're all people, and we all would love to give. It's just that Christians happen to be, the mass amount of people.
Right. I quit giving to the United Way because the United Way picks and chooses which charities they'll give the money to based on a religious ideology. So it's hard to find any place that you can give money to that is secular, and it's going to go to secular causes and be distributed fairly. I don't mind giving money to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which is actually a Christian children's hospital, because they don't act like a Christian organization as far as the way that they treat people.
It's a Catholic hospital.
It's a Catholic hospital, but it's not it's not a Catholic hospital because it's a children's hospital. They're not denying abortions. It's not like that. It's not like that's an issue that they have. Whereas any other Catholic hospital, I can't give them money because I know that they're going to turn people away for certain things. So
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, speaking of the nuns on the bus and feminism, Jenny did a video last week about something Emma Watson spoke about at the UN. And you want to talk about that a little bit, Jenny?
Yeah, so Emma Watson, she is the ambassador of women's goodwill for the UN. And basically, she just recently spoke out on feminism and equality and said that her main goal of the He for She campaign that she's doing, it's like hashtag He for She, is to get boys and men involved, so that they realize that they are also, victims of gender stereotyping. So, being more manly or just, I don't know, being the breadwinner of the household and things like that, those things affect men, and then that in turn affects women, because if men are the ones in control, then women are the subservient or the ones who aren't in control. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And for anybody who wants to see the website, here it is. He for She, a solidarity movement for gender equality. I just made sure that anybody could see it, and it would be part of the show.
Right, and there's a petition that you can sign, which I did, that is basically for men to. It's basically a petition for men, I guess. I don't know, women I suppose could sign it too, but it's for men to sign to say that they are going to make a conscious effort. It's kind of like a purity pledge. It's kind of meaningless in that sense, but it's a pledge that they're going to make a concerted effort to consider the issue from all sides before they make any decisions in going forward, and which I think is in a way that's a good thing, because men for so long have been conditioned to think a certain way, and to think of ourselves as the like you said, the breadwinner and the man of the house, the whole, none of that is necessarily. It's not anti-feminist necessarily, but it is a hindrance to feminism. When you have that mindset, it's a hindrance to feminism. And the cause of feminism is, as Jenny said in her video very eloquently, is not an anti-male. Feminism is not anti-man. It's pro-equality.
And I'm checking on the website how many people have signed per country. Canada, it's 10,000. The US is 42, almost 43,000. England, it's almost 22,000. France is low with only 5,500.
Well, they're all women anyway. In France, they're all women.
And Australia is at 7,800.
Good.
So it's moving.
Yeah, that's good.
Altogether, almost 150,000 people worldwide have signed.
Yeah, and there are things that men do that and have always done that I've never understood why men. I've never felt the urge, for example, to catcall a woman. I've never felt the urge to do that. I see pretty women and I'll take a glance. No, I mean, of course I'm going to do that, but I expect women do the same thing to men, and that's not sexist. That's just sex. But when you start doing things like catcalling and making it verbal and calling attention to it, you are gender shaming. That's there's no other way around it. And I don't see how men do that and don't realize that they're doing it. And I live full disclosure, I live in the same county as Steubenville, Ohio, which, if you probably know Steubenville, Ohio, from the famous rape case where the two high school students, actually a whole bunch of high school students, but two in general, drugged and got a girl drunk at a party, and then stripped her naked and videotaped themselves doing things to her. She was so out of it that they thought she was dead for a while, and they continued to do these things to her. And when she woke up and found, and she woke up, didn't even know what had happened until somebody showed her the video that they were sharing on some of the they were like private messaging it around Twitter and some other sites, and so she sued, and the boys ended up being in jail, and one of the boys is out of jail now. This is like less than a year later. He's out of jail and he's back on the football team. He's playing on their football team right now, and
Well,
that's how bad the attitude is. Like, how do you not realize that this just continues to harm the girl?
yes, and did you hear about what happened on Fox this week?
Yeah, with the boobs on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you not hear about Eric Bolling? Uh, the United Arab Emirates flew an attack on ISIS, and the lead pilot was a woman, and so Fox News was talking about it, and they were and the women on the Five. That's the show that they were talking about it on. The women on the Five were very excited that a woman was in charge of this flight, and she was going. So there, ISIS, it was a woman that attacked you. How do you like that? She was like taking that stand of it. That camera goes to Eric Bolling, and he says, "So would you call that boobs on the ground?" Just like completely, like he didn't get it at all. He's just like had no idea. And then I think Steve
He
Ducey said some stupid
apologized.
stuff.
Yeah, Steve said that that once she had landed the plane, she couldn't park it.
Couldn't park it. Couldn't park it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
that's that's disgusting. I had to. I couldn't believe how bad it is. And the thing is, I've been following comments that people are making on one of the YouTube channels, and I'm surprised as to how many men do not understand that it is sexist and
I'm
unacceptable.
not surprised at all.
It's
I'm not
like
surprised.
through the internet, you see it anywhere. If you make any I could make a comment about something totally unrelated on a different channel, which I do a lot, like on YouTube, and it turns into like a feminism, like anti-feminism argument so often. It's so weird, and it turns into, well, certain people are asking for it, and the whole rape culture thing comes out, and it's just
There was a cop recently who said something about that. That wasn't there a police somewhere in the news. There's a story about a policeman who some women said something about a woman was raped by on a traffic stop. And so they were talking to his police chief, and he said, "Well, if you don't want to get raped, maybe you should be obeying the traffic laws." He actually said that, which was just appalling. But that's the mindset.
But I saw a good one.
That's not even you deserve it
India.
because you were dressed slutty. That's you deserve it because you can't drive.
But did you see the video from India where two drivers were caught trying to rape a woman? So they were attached on a public square. One of them was naked, and the women from the village went with their shoes and started beating them up with their shoes.
I think I heard about that in India. Yeah.
I saw it. I was thinking, they deserve worse than that. Although normally I should say, no, this is not acceptable. This is not how justice is done. But then I was thinking in the back of my head, damn, those guys deserved it, and I hope they could.
Yeah.
They
Well,
really got it bad.
India has a really bad, like if women they you know how they pack trains. Women in India know when they get on the train they're just going to get groped for the whole ride, and nobody's going to do anything about it. And it can be that way in New Jersey too, but it's still not as bad as like India. In India, it's really bad. And then they have gangs that go around and just look for women to rape. If you're out on the streets, they'll rape you. So yeah,
I think there's like a United States centric mentality that a lot of people have where they say there is absolutely no need for feminism. Like there's no need for this. There is an entire world where things like this are still happening with like genital mutilation and, women in full burqa, women being stoned if they leave the house without their husband, can't drive, being groped without anyone doing anything about it. So there is definitely still a need for it,
There's a
But
problem
this
with the
is why.
message, though.
And
Yeah,
this is why, sorry, but this is why it's so important what those nuns are doing.
Right. Exactly.
They're standing on the ground, and and they're standing for important causes.
Yeah, there's a problem with the messaging though, because what happens is, like when, for example, with the burqa, when a woman says, "I don't want to wear the burqa, I don't want to wear the hijab, I feel it's oppressive," other women will say, "I can wear what I want." They make it they turn it into as if they're being attacked for making a choice to wear it. And
same with sexual objectification, like, well, I like the attention and I like looking hot. Well, it's all part of the system of the thing. You're becoming that way because you're conditioned to be that way. You didn't just wake up and decide to get, your boobs out of your shirt today or wear a burqa. You're just conditioned into thinking you want that.
Right. But if somebody is thinking that way, no matter why they're thinking that way, they do have the right to think that way. And as long as the messaging isn't, well, no, you're just confused. If you don't just, you can't really tell them that. You can't tell somebody that you only think that way because you've been conditioned to think that way. You have to tell them, yeah, you have the right to wear whatever you want to wear, and I have the right to not have to wear it. And so you should be on my side and say, I don't have to wear. I want to dress, provocatively. I don't want to dress provocatively. Either both choices are valid, and neither choice gives a guy a right to rape you. And they're always telling, whenever the argument that the message has to be given to the sons, that this is not acceptable. The sons have to be told this. That to me is also problematic, because you shouldn't have to tell somebody that this is not right. That they should just understand that it's not right. It should be, if I wouldn't want somebody throwing me on the ground and tearing my clothes off and having their way with me, then I shouldn't do it to somebody else. That's just common sense.
Well, a lot of people use the excuse that it's like instinctual, that like people are like inherently violent and, just the penis has to be in the hole, I guess. I don't know. But that is an excuse I hear all the time. It's like, no, how do you know that? It's like, people, we're not like animals anymore, and we've evolved and we can use our brains. So
right. Yeah, but there's certainly something to that. I mean, chimpanzees. I don't think chimpanzees, for example, or our closest relative, I don't think all the female chimpanzees are able. When they say no means no in chimp. I don't think that's the case. So there is some validity to the idea that men are driven to basically, take what they want to take. But that doesn't mean that it's morally acceptable, because snakes are driven to do things that we don't that you, as a person, you say, no, that's not the right thing to do. You're not a snake. And it's the same thing with,
that's like a very Dawkinsian, I guess, idea too, the evolutionary idea that people like the domination of man on woman or something in the past in order to procreate has lessened and lessened as we've gotten smarter and evolved as a species, but that's why it's there. And I think more from like Dawkins' standpoint, why he gets in trouble a lot is because he'll say, well, like when I was young, like the whole thing about how he was abused as a child. Well, when I was young, that was more common. So he's just kind of whatever about it. Like, whatever, that's just how things used to be. We evolve, and that's what happens. So
yeah, right. Yeah, and as a biologist, he probably thinks about things a lot in terms of evolutionary impulses, and that's just how people are. And but we are atheists, non-atheists. We're all capable of moral thought and determining for ourselves that something is wrong. And when something is obviously wrong, it's obviously wrong. It's not objectively wrong, but it's obviously wrong. And so, we should be able to control our impulses that way. Okay, but let's go ahead and do the preview of Christian glitches.
Well, okay. My Christian glitches. Now, try and figure out what the guy is talking about.
That thing, oh man, That thing make me look bad and stuff like that. I was embarrassed to go to school. I used to lie to my parents, tell them that something's wrong with me, because I didn't want to go to school. I was embarrassed to go to school and stuff like that. It was terrible. I can tell you that. It was just terrible. It's not a good thing.
So what's not a good, it's not a good thing too, and then I just cut him off there. So
okay,
we have to guess what, at least our viewers have to guess what could be so horrible and that would make him look bad, like would change his look so he couldn't go to school.
Well, given the theme of your last two videos, I have no idea.
Boners.
Boners would, yeah, a really big boner would affect the way you look because it would hide your face.
Yes. So people will have to wait for Sunday to find out what can make him look so bad.
Okay, right before we sign off, let me ask you, because I held this up earlier when we were talking about me being from Ohio. You know what that is?
An avocado pit?
No,
That's
I'm from Ohio.
a chestnut.
What kind of chestnut? I'm from Ohio. I'm from Ohio.
I don't know.
It's a Buckeye.
A buckeye.
Oh.
So that's why Ohio's called the Buckeye State.
You hate Michigan.
Was that?
You hate Michigan, right?
I don't hate Michigan. Actually, Ann Arbor is a much nicer campus than Ohio State. But my son went to Ohio State, so yeah, Muck-Fishigan. Anyway, okay. That's what we say. Okay. So was there anything else anybody wanted to throw in there real quick before we sign off?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, that's all for today. Please make sure that you subscribe to Atheism TV's channel. There you can watch the Infidel News for the Damned, where our talented team of writers and anchors present these and other stories not normally covered in the media. In the coming week, the Infidel will rerun today's stories and many more fascinating ones. You'll find Atheism TV at youtube.com/atheismtv. The Infidel Podcast of the Damned is a Nicole SD production. Nicole and I would like to recognize and say thank you to Truth Surge, who did the voiceover used in our intro. We'd also like to thank Jenny for participating in today's podcast. Thank you again, Jenny.
Thank you.
Nicole's channel is Nicole SD and can be found at youtube.com/NICOLSD. I'm Gamut Man on YouTube, at Gamut Man on Twitter, and my blog and information on my books, including my nonfiction title, Believe It, You Know an Atheist, as well as my mystery novel featuring the atheist detective Lupa Schwartz, can be accessed at tinyurl.com/Lupa Landing. While there, you can sign up and receive my newsletter. Signing up also entitles you to choose one free title from my collection of 99-cent ebook novellas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yay!